Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar where we are going to discuss considered AI helping L&D practitioners work smarter, not harder in 2024. So I'm going to go through the agenda in just a second and then pass you straight over to our speakers. So Chris, can I have the next slide, please? So what are we talking about today? We're looking at today's challenges, AI use cases, Cornerstone's approach to AI, particularly in relation to delivering content, how to drive impactful talent experiences with content. We're going to do a mixture of sort of theory and demonstration. So we'll pop back and forward between your two main speakers today, and then we will have a Q&A at the end. I will say the Q&A module should be in front of you on your screen, so do ask questions as they occur to you and we go along. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. The other thing to say is that we will record today's session and we will send it out in approximately a week to everybody online. So with that, I'm going to pass you straight over to your speakers, Giddings and Paul Arthur.
Great stuff. Thanks, Yvonne. Just checking you can hear me all okay?
All good.
Excellent. Thanks very much. So firstly, a very warm welcome and thanks to everyone for joining us on today's session. So let's kick off with some introductions first of all. So I'm Chris Giddings, been at Cornerstone now for almost 7 years with a background of content learning, managed learning services. My role in the content business here, really pleased to meet. There'll be a lot of new names, a lot of people on here that we hopefully know already, because my role is working with both new and existing customers of Cornerstone to really help drive transformation, change and growth through meaningful learning solutions and ultimately game-changing content and learning experience. So Paul, over to you for an introduction as well, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm Paul Arthur. I am what's called a solution consultant here at Cornerstone. What that ultimately means is trying to understand the requirements of our customers, understanding the different products that we have in the portfolio, and then sort of relaying back how our products could potentially help customers. So from a perspective of today, I'll be basically walking through some of the technology today to give you a bit of an idea about how it will work.
Great stuff. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so before we dive in and before we get started, just wanted to really kind of level set a little bit more about the topic and set the scene for today's webinar. So when we talk around working smarter, not harder, what we're ultimately saying is let us help you, let the technology help you and improve productivity, performance, ultimately whilst optimizing and simplifying L&D practices. This could include things like distributing more interesting targeted learning for new or seasoned employees, ability to use AI to create collections of content, as we'll see today, that are much more kind of personalized to the learner and thinking about more kind of assessment, automation, and many more factors. So we'll kick off today. We'll start, as we go through the presentation, start to talk more around what are some of today's challenges that we see in this space. We have some really interesting data points that we'd like to share and share some of that insight with you. And talk around some of the different AI use cases that we're currently seeing in the learning and talent space. And ultimately, what is the Cornerstone approach to AI? And then what we're going to do is get into more around how you can drive that impactful talent experience with content and leveraging AI. And then Paul's going to take you through a couple of demonstrations today of Content Studio. And that will also include the new Gen AI functionality that's going to be coming into Content Studio just a little bit later on this year. So we want to keep today as interactive as possible. So we'll lead into a poll in just one moment. The reason for asking this is when we're talking to our customers, we have a lot of meetings and we ask this question. We hear a lot of different answers. Some of our customers are already starting to incorporate AI technology. However, a lot of you aren't at the moment, not quite yet. There's a number of implications that you need to think about before deploying an AI strategy. Some of those things we can actually impact, and we'll talk through as to how we can personalize that whole overall learning experience. But as I say, let's keep today's session interactive. We'll kick things off with a first poll. So what we would love to hear is, how are you currently using AI technology in your learning and development program? We've got 4 typical answers in here for you to choose from the poll. I think there might even be a 5th, maybe even a 6th one in there. Everyone, keep me right.
Definitely, yeah. I think we've got 7 options. We've got a few people voting. So I will just quickly say, so no, we're not currently using AI in our L&D. No, we're not allowed to use AI in our business. Or sorry, AI in our business. It's being used for personalized learning experiences or increased efficiency and scalability, improved data analysis and insights, enhanced engagement and interactivity. And then we have one which is just other. And actually it'd be great if you have voted other, if you would pop that in the chat and we can have a little sort of a look at what else people are using AI for in your business or your learning and development program. It is open. I do like us to get to about over half of the people on the webinar to vote. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love you just pop over. It should be on your screen next to chat and messages. The poll should be there. So do pop on there and just give us a give us your vote and where you're currently standing, which would be good. I don't know, Chris, if you're able to see, just to give everybody a preview of what you are thinking, if you're able to let us know what you think so far has come through on there.
I need you to call those out, Yvonne, if that's okay, because I can't.
Oh, you can't see them, of course.
I'm in my presentation mode, so if you could call those out as to what is the top poll or the top vote at the moment, that'd be great.
Vote is no, we are not currently using AI in our L&D. Which has surprised me. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it surprises me, but also doesn't. As I say, I think a lot of people are aware of the technologies. There is an abundance of technology out there that can be leveraged, but using it in the right way, there needs to be a secure plan, the governance, everything that sits around that. So maybe we are quite early in that journey where people are discovering the market, they're getting familiar with that. What are the implications of that before they start implementing? So it'd be really interesting if we, again, looked at this poll a bit later on in the year to see how maybe that has shifted as well.
Interestingly, only one person has said no, they're not allowed. We've got, so I will say no, we're not currently using AI in our L&D is by far the winner. I'm talking 30%. 30% of people voting, or 30% of people on the webinar today over I'm going to go with 75% of the actual people voting are giving us that. We've got a little, so some people are saying personalized learning experiences, but again, only about 5% looking at increased efficiency and scalability.
Yeah.
But yeah, really interesting results there.
Definitely. Yeah. All right, great. Well, hopefully, we can shift some of that confidence, and we're talking about Content Studio later on today and how AI will help power that as well. That can shift the needle there a little bit as well. So thanks all for the input there.
We do have one comment on here just saying I use AI for content and asset creation along with brainstorming. However, this is not driven by our L&D.
All right. Good to know. Brilliant. We'll keep the comments coming, and say we want to keep really interactive. There'll be Q&A at the end, but pop any kind of comments and notes in the chat there as well, and we'll be sure to pick those up as we go through the session today. Okay, so let's move forward then. So let's again help further sort of set the scene, because without doubt, generative AI will transform and is transforming our world as we speak. Probably, I think it will shift things as much as we saw, with the internet. The focus very much isn't on, necessarily what that technology will do, but how you use it. And our perspective is very much around how will it help amplify capability or human capabilities as well. If we think back only 18 months ago, if someone had asked you around, or personally asked me around ChatGPT, for example, how are you using it? Do you know what it is? I would have probably looked a little bit blank to say, yeah, not really heard much about this. And as we've seen, it's rapidly evolved ever since then. And these sorts of tools are becoming more and more available. They're becoming the norm. They're becoming available in all different, areas of our life. But the key aspect has to be around how they're used and used responsibly there as well. So before we dive into that, I want to sort of step back and share some insights and some data that we've been seeing across the industry, some analysts, what some of these reports have been saying, and ultimately what we've been hearing from our customers there as well. So the first report and data point we'd been looking at was the McKinsey Future of Jobs report that was published last year. And that gave us particularly 3 really interesting data points. So the first of those was that 60% of organizations with reported AI adoption are also using generative AI as part of that as well. 40% of those reporting AI adoption at their organization say their companies expect to invest even further into AI thanks to generative AI. So it's very much moving and evolving. And then McKinsey also estimates that 30% of the hours worked today could be automated within 7 years. So that's quite a scary transition and fact, I think. So if you think about that, when 30% of your daily work goes away, you think about how you might be then spending that time. I doubt it will be with your feet up. It'll probably be on other things, right? So it requires new skills, new ways of working, and very much talking to our customers. This is a common and quite often, urgent challenge that we're hearing and seeing, and customers need to act on that as well. And in these early days, expectations for Gen AI impact are high, right? So there's 3/4 of all respondents in this survey expect Gen AI to cause significant or major disruptive change in their industry in the next 3 years. So it's not even a case, I don't think, that big changes are on the horizon. They're actually happening now, and we're already seeing it. So some quite eye-opening facts in there, I think. And then what does that look like ultimately? What are the current challenges for a modern workforce to stay competitive, right? It's a challenging market out there at the moment. So we looked at some data here from the World Economic Forum report that was published in 2023. And they predict that by 2025, 87 million jobs will be displaced globally. And by 2025, 97 million new jobs will be created, which is quite staggering. Those volumes really, really are. And we're not talking, long term here. We're talking the next few years. And I've got 2 young kids, so we often have, this light-hearted discussion around, what do you want to do when you're older, and get all sorts of ideas. But there's a stat in that report that also says 30% of all kids that are in a primary school now, when they enter the job market, those jobs won't even exist. So 30% of kids that are now in primary school will enter into jobs that don't exist. So we don't even know what these are going to be, these future roles. What will they look like? That's still to be decided. My youngest will definitely disagree with that, because she tells me daily what role she's going to go into when she's older. This week, the flavour of the month has been either an artist, a footballer, or even a teacher. Hopefully, we'd expect that those roles will still exist in the near years as well. Then we looked at a survey based on Deloitte as well, and they predict there that 53% surveyed believe that between half of all of their workforce will need to change skills in the next 3 years. That's a huge amount. And if you think about, just over 50% of any workforce, the need and how you will upskill, reskill, make that shift in your organization, that again is very, very significant. And then no surprise then, so the other stat in there was that 40% of HR leaders struggle to build skill development solutions fast enough. So as I say, this isn't a future change that's going on. This is change that's happening now. So there's a clear struggle. There's often as well, we hear this from our customers a lot, it's that defining balance as well. Getting that agreement on who's responsible for building those skills. Is it you as an organization, you as a L&D team or a talent team? How do you shape that future? Or do you put it in the hands of your individuals and your employees? We see it's a bit of both. The technology is there to enable people and manage it from a business level, but but you've got to enable your people. You've got to give them the right tools, the right content, and the journeys to be able to actually make that change there as well. So some really interesting data and stats that are coming from these reports, these surveys. But I think the significant part for me is this isn't long term. This is stuff that's happening within the next 3 years, and it's happening now. So a time to now look at our second poll of today. Now that we've absorbed some of those statistics, data points, they are really quite eye-watering, some of those, and what the change will bring. So we would like to ask you, which features would you prioritize in AI-based learning tools? Yvonne, are you okay to, again, share that poll and call out the options that we have available for our audience, please?
Definitely. So we're getting some votes in already. So the poll is live. Options available to you are adaptive learning pathways, automated content generation, real-time feedback and assessments. I always struggle with this one because I say gamification, but I think it's probably gamification elements, collaboration tool. And then we also have another other there. And I will say, as with the last poll, if you click on other, would you let us know what you think in the chat so that we can add that to the mix for the viewers as well. So definite winner on this one is adaptive learning pathways so far, with automated content generation coming a very close second. We've nothing for collaboration tools or other yet. So adaptive learning pathways is still growing. So yeah, over 60-70% of people are saying adaptive learning pathways.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff. Yeah. And again, that's not surprising, right? That ties in with that whole personalized learning, user interface, user experience, what's personalized for me in my role and my future direction, my preferences, all of those good things. So I'm quite glad to see that, because that has been a core part of what Cornerstone have focused our learning and LXP solutions on in the last few years. So hopefully that stat is slightly driven by those personalized and adaptive learning pathways that people are given there as well. But content generation as well, I think, that is a key aspect, right? We often talk about, so where's the content library coming from? How are people learning? Is it off the shelf? Is it in-house? A lot of that content now is needing to be captured internally as well. So whether that's by, subject matter experts, L&D, or just user-generated content there as well, trying to make that really easy to generate content and make it a part of that learning ecosystem. We'll come on to it, but we see a lot of new functionality coming into our Create tool, which again is designed to very much help and make that more of a seamless journey and experience as well. All right, any other comments in there, Yvonne, before we jump on?
No, nothing. I will just say, yeah, with sort of before I just close, we've definitely that adaptive learning pathways over sort of 60-70% of votes going towards that one.
Excellent. All right. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the typical Gen AI use cases. We've got 5 key examples here that we're going to just walk through at a high level. So starting top left, we talk around talent intelligence. So again, driven by that transformation, skills shift, we're thinking about mobility. How do we move people around in the organization for roles potentially that are becoming more redundant and the skills are no longer required? So it's identifying those key characteristics and skills in your people, thinking about who's ready for promotion, who might be looking to move into a new opportunity, or even identifying pay inequities there as well. We then think about the employee experience, right? That's become a key differentiator for employers. Give people a great employee experience and put the tools in the hands of people that's personalized and all of those good things. And that could include even something in the AI space, like a chatbot, for example, that brings together documents, support materials, transactional type systems all together, making it seamless, making it easy for the employee. Then we look at the top right around retention, tying in very much with things like well-being as well. So we've seen this right from 2020 when we went into our first lockdown there. This became a massive thing for employers, looking after our people, ensuring there's that balance. And that has maintained, we've seen, ever since, people have gone back to hybrid working, back into offices, whatever your kind of now day-to-day looks like, it's really getting that balance. Part of that is obviously avoiding, people going through any kind of burnout, but balancing up and looking at engagement scores, engagement issues. How do you look at those? So again, looking at, having some sort of platform that could manage that data. You could ask questions, factors that maybe contribute towards turnover in certain potentially kind of departments, functions of the business there as well. So it's really leveraging that kind of data that you would have in your system. And then we drop into the bottom two there. So employee development. So ties in quite nicely with, the adaptive learner pathways that we just saw in the top of the poll. So again, it ties in quite nicely here. Cornerstone, or for your employees, thinking about seeing pathways that tell you how you can move around within your organization, thinking about what additional skills you might need to build, recommendations of learning to fulfill and build skills and build proficiency levels in those various skills as well. So really empowering that individual and thinking about their growth and development and where they go next in the organization. And then the final part was around employee training. So training and compliance will always be there. I would typically, keep that as a separate theme to your ongoing development and learning. Obviously, your training and compliance might be more functional for the role. It could be your annual or refresher compliance type training. But new types of technology and learning are coming in now as well. So we're seeing things more like AR, VR, situational type learning, gamification, Yvonne, for you, and things around content creation there as well. So empowering people within your organization to create really high quality, meaningful content that people are going to engage with there as well. So those of you that are familiar, with Cornerstone, I know we have both customers and non-customers joining us today, so we've got a diverse group. For those of you that managed to attend our Connect event in the autumn of 2023, there was a dedicated session that we ran on that day, and that was run by our global VP for Tech Fabric, AI, machine learning, and data science. It's a very long job title he has. But he ran a session around sort of the ethical and the key kind of pillars that support us and what is our approach ultimately to AI at Cornerstone. At the core of everything that we're doing, if you view that across all of our solutions and tech that we offer at Cornerstone, we believe very much that AI should be used intentionally and purposefully. So everything that we're doing here in this service is making people extraordinary in their role, making them extraordinary at work, achieving goals, aligning to goals. And that's driven by the three key principles that we have here. But above and beyond everything that underpins this, there are concerns around AI and Gen AI. So three key areas that sit behind this are around ensuring our customer data is always protected. It's a 101, it's an absolute must. We're mitigating any kind of bias by focusing on the right types of data. So for example, skills, we're focusing on the right things and always keeping a human in the loop of that as well. So it's a well-protected framework. There's a dedicated deck on that. So if anyone wants to know more about that, let me know. We can help share that after as well. But the first pillar that we really call out here is around the augmented experiences. So this is all about leveraging AI in the moments that matter. So whether you are, let's say, in an early onboarding experience or looking into a role shift, it's really about using AI to provide guidance and remove friction in that process. We're then thinking about predicting and assisting users in key moments of an employee's career journey to drive purpose, business outcomes, fulfillment, those sorts of things. Second pillar, we focus on enabling excellence in the future of work. So this is all based around the rapid pace of change in AI, or Gen AI at the moment. Whilst it does present a tremendous opportunity, it has to be managed very, very carefully. but this heavily ties in then with employee productivity, knowledge, and Cornerstone want to help accelerate, this shift. We want to make it easy for our customers to leverage the key value points. So we'll use very much AI to help drive automation, augmented work, disseminate knowledge, where it's needed, and predict the right next steps for organizations or teams, or obviously people themselves. And then the third pillar, we look at promoting inclusion, leadership, and responsibility. So as the leader in people development as Cornerstone, how do we use the technology? How do we empower our customers, their workforces, and their people with the right practices and the right knowledge? How do we always ensure that that data is kept safe, secure, and being used for the right things? And then how do we ensure that ultimately the tools that we're providing for automation do not cause negative impact? So things like bias, hallucination, and so forth there as well. So this is a really important slide because it underpins all the ethos of what we're doing in this space, making it really safe and secure for our customers and the people that are engaging and utilizing the technology. And this isn't new for Cornerstone. So again, this was called out last year and it will continue to grow. So we don't think of AI as something we use as long as we are just looking at the future there. This is something that we've been doing for a long amount of time now. So both Cornerstone and Edcast have got a rich heritage of AI and machine learning innovation in the HR tech space overall, going back to 2014. And this was with the acquisition of Evolve and Edcast. Ultimately, their pioneering work that they did with AI in content recommendations and curation, which is now very much delivered through the LXP. Since then, we've been on a really exciting journey. Been here 7 years, I've seen a lot of these changes and a lot of these developments, and it's often really quite powerful to step back and look at the journey that we've been going through and looking at the progress. So things like, integrating technologies into industry-leading talent development solutions. So we brought in transformers, neural networks, bringing together a global center of excellence around AI expertise, including data scientists, machine learning experts, large-scale system architecture, and data visualization specialists. That's a mouthful, that sentence. And then adding in companies to help support that journey there as well. So 2020, we added Clustery, skills-based organization there that we're leading in the market. Opportunity Marketplace, Content Studio, Cornerstone Skills Graphs are how we're productizing these sorts of things. And today, things like Content Studio, you'll get an opportunity to see that and how we're then leveraging the generative AI functionality in there as well. So I see no reason that we would be slowing down with this. It's going to continue. A lot of this stuff is very exciting for us in the content space because it ties in heavily with learning content, bringing all of those together as one. So it will certainly not be slowing down. So, we're on a very, very exciting journey here at Cornerstone. So what are our goals? Ultimately, what are we going to be helping our people with? What are we driving towards? We talk a lot about value. So feature functionality, great, but let's see what the actual value is. So with so much change and transformation taking place that we heard about earlier on with the data from McKinsey and World Economic Forum, there is a need for change. And as we said, this isn't future change, this is now, and it's ultimately a journey. So employee development and growth is absolutely key. So enabling people with the right technology and the right resources to make this happen and really deliver on that as well. So no surprise then that personalization at scale with easy curation and enablement, are three key factors that will help with that shift, help with people development, upskilling, reskilling, being ultimately fit for the future as an organization, but a workforce that's fit for the future. Okay, so wanted to provide a bit of an overview really when we look at ultimately our content product architecture, as we say. So there's three key areas here ultimately. And these are the foundations that we work to. So if you start on your left-hand side, it's the cornerstone content offering. And ultimately, that is having the best content from leading providers, third-party providers, Skillsoft, TED, Masters of Scale, hundreds of other providers in there, combined with unique cornerstone originals content that we've built internally, that we've built ourselves, award-winning as well. I've got to plug that. If we then think about the right-hand side, the delivery and integration piece, that's how we surface that content. So whether you are a Cornerstone customer on Edcast, Cornerstone LMS, Saba, SumTotal, our content is seamlessly integrated and surfaced through those platforms. It can now be extended to third-party LMS and LXP platforms there as well. So that's something to bear in mind if you are not currently a customer of Cornerstone. It's a really exciting development. And at the beginning of the middle or the center of that, we talk very much around this ecosystem. So this is largely centered around Content Studio. So just at high level there, this is a new product that we brought in around Q3 last year, designed to make life easy for administrators. It pulls together the discovery, the curation, the insights piece that's coming, and then the creation of content there as well into one seamless ecosystem. All of these areas are being heavily developed, a lot of investment, and they're all seen as growth areas for us here at Cornerstone, particularly with the content side. And with the Content Anytime subscriptions, or CCA, as we refer to it internally, there's a number of benefits that come with that model. Through 2023, we had a lot of customers that were needing to consolidate platforms, providers, have a more seamless user experience of surfacing the content all in one place. It's very unique in that it is fully curated. We're not just aggregating content from lots of different providers. You've got your quality assurances all built in there as well. You've got variety of providers. You've got multimodality. That ultimately drives longer term engagement. Every customer I talk to wants to have a central place of learning where people keep engaging. That's where they learn. That's where they build skills. It's all in a record. You can track and manage that very, very easily. That's probably the ultimate goal that so many of our customers are working and building towards. Our content subscription are multi-language, so it's fully scalable for global customers. There are pre-built collections within there as well, which again, as Paul's going to show you, can be very easily leveraged through Content Studio. And then we have a whole range of different engagement resources to help ensure that, we roll this out, we drive the adoption, we drive engagement, and it goes back to delivering transformation and change as an organization. All of that, as we say, seamlessly surfaced through our platforms. So all done through your single sign-on, all of your data tracking, ease of catalog management in there as well. Even things, like your regular refresh in there monthly to ensure that your catalogs stay fresh. And it's very easy to procure. If you're already a Cornerstone customer, we make it even easier for you there as well. So Studio is a key part in the center of what we're going to be coming on to and talking a little bit about today. The Create tool that we have is also worth just flagging as well, because a lot of our customers do want to manage some customization of content as well. So the Create tool will allow you to do two things. You can create brand new content and seamlessly upload that into your catalog. You can also customize any Cornerstone Originals content. That was updated in this month's release. It was previously just our Grovo content. It is now any of our Cornerstone Originals. So there's even more scope now to customize and personalize that content. And there will be new Gen AI functionality also coming into that Create tool to, again, make it easier, more simple, and more robust for administrators there as well. So it's a really exciting, architecture model that we now work with. This has really helped us grow. It's helping our overall value proposition. But bringing all this together as one is really, really key, especially if you start factoring in things like skills and how that will map to content and so forth there as well. And if we think about ultimately now where our customers are wanting to upskill in and around AI, Gen AI, all of those related topics there as well, there's typically 4 areas that we're getting demand for at the moment. So first being your foundational. So that is very much around the ethical and foundational practices around AI. How should it be used? Thought leadership on that. Thinking about how it could fit your organization. Then we have technical, so it's around very much, the AI tech itself, configuration, product innovation. This in itself is so fast moving in the content space as well. So as you can imagine, our CCA technology subscription is very fast moving at the moment on a monthly basis. Lots and lots of new courses being added in just on this topic alone. So it's quite tricky to keep pace with, but we're tracking really nicely there. And then we have developmental. So again, how to harness the use of AI in day-to-day roles. It's coming into way more tools and bits of functionality that we use daily. How can it help us? How can it, make us more efficient? How can it summarize my meeting notes? All of these really interesting aspects, many of which we use at Cornerstone already. And then we think about leadership. So thinking about the risk, what is the opportunity? How do we manage change in our organization? That's a really big piece as well. So ultimately, when you bring all of these in together, you've got your high level, you've got your micro level of actually upskilling there as well. Our content anytime catalog cover all of these areas. So we feel very confident and very well placed that we can help upskill our customers in this topic there as well. All right, and the final one before we start to think about moving into seeing this in action, what Paul will be showing you here is very much around Content Studio. We've got 2 demos we'll be showing today. We're really excited about Content Studio, as I've probably said a couple of times. It's a great piece of technology. It's an LMS admin dream. It makes it very, very easy to understand what's in your catalog, manage your curation, and then have some insights that's coming a little later on this year as well. This is all going to be powered by Cornerstone's 7,000 plus customers, 100 million users. It's an extremely powerful tool. And ultimately, it's going to help our customers to surface the right content or the right learning in the moments of need. That seamless aggregation of content all in one tool. Relieve some of that workload. Let's leverage the technology to make it easy. Then there'll be actionable insights there based on consumption and ultimately simplifying content purchases for our customers as there as well. And we've already seen some quick success with Content Studio since we launched as well. So there's a couple of really interesting data points here as well. So data is already showing us that those customers that have adopted our CCA subscriptions, one or a number of, and they've leveraged Content Studio, they are already seeing uptick in both active users and time spent. So active users, so the number of people engaging with the content, has increased by 23.4%. So that says to me that by using this tool and the power of the tool, the content that they're actually curating is much more meaningful and it's engaging people in the right ways. And then the second part is the time spent on the learning is seeing an increase of nearly 41%. So again, that says to me that the customers that have been using this and putting the right content in there through the recommendations and so on, people are engaging with it really, really well. So this is massively encouraging for us, considering this only launched in around Q3 last year. And this is before the Gen AI functionality comes in later on this year. So I think it's a very, very exciting starting point. And I can only see this accelerating as the year goes on there as well. So a time for me to finally now pause and you can hear a different voice. So I'm now going to hand over to Paul, who's going to take you through demo 1 today, which is going to be for Content Studio. So Paul, let me stop sharing and I will hand over to you.
Thanks, Chris. So yeah, hi, thanks for that, Chris. So what I'm going to walk you through today is the Content Studio sort of as is right now to start with. So I'm going to give you a bit of an idea about how simple and straightforward it is to firstly find and discover the different types of content you may have in your catalog. And that can include looking across different Cornerstone collections and the CCA subscriptions you can see here. But what it will also include, if you were to turn it on in a platform of yours, also any of that content that you may have created yourselves as well. So it gives you a really nice way to find, search, curate, and publish any great kind of content you want to. So where we start here really is I'm going to start with the discovery area first. So this is where you can discover that content and find any content in your platform here. There's a few different ways you can go about doing this. If you've got a particular topic that you're looking to host and create a collection of content to publish into your system, it's really simple to do that. Now, obviously, we've been talking a lot today about AI. So, you know, what you're able to do is quickly search for specific topics like AI, as you can see here. So it can start to present you with simple content that's available for you. As you can see, it's all coming in this case because it's coming from our CCA subscriptions from a variety of different providers. So from Skillsoft to BookBoon to MindTools, TED, etc. You can see there's a huge variety of different providers here within our platform. If we want to go in and have a look at any of those particular pieces of content before potentially posting it and publishing it into our system, first thing you may want to do is have a little bit of a look at some of that particular content and what's coming up. So we can see, you know, the total number of people who've taken this course, how that's occurred over the last quarter, whether it's been assigned to people, whether it's self-directed, how long the course is. So we get a really quick overview in this particular area. If I want to go in and check on that course and see actually, you know, is this course actually good? Do I want to add it into our platform? You know, it's one click for me to launch it here from the Create tool, so I can have that in our sort of pop that open, have a quick look at it, and decide if that's something I want to. So, you know, it's quick, it's simple to have a look at any of these. I can go in and see, you know, get a little bit of a high level, a bit of information about the course. Drill into a bit more detail if I really want to go into that particular course itself. So it will give you a bit of information. Obviously, as you can see, you know, the categories it fall under, the topics it's covering, the skills that it's trying to teach the users, and any other kind of big subjects it may be looking to cover as well. So nice way for me to simply find content. If I'm more interested in particular topics, I've got subjects here that I can find my way through. So I also have, you know, it's split all the content in here is categorized into these various different subjects. So if I'm thinking about it from a leadership and productivity perspective, maybe I want to work on, you know, help our managers with delegation, then I can start to find courses in the system that are, again, focused on delegation and how some of those could help our team members within the organization develop those skills here. So again, I can go in and start to look at what kind of engagement some of these courses are starting to have. So it's a nice simple way to search, just either by subjects or via keywords. What you can also see on this main page here, though, is the different subscription packages that we have. So this will allow anybody who's got access to come in, have a look at any of these particular subjects or subscriptions. As you can see, there's potentially quite a few different courses available in here. So it's really simple for me to edit and sort of filter my way down to a more manageable number. So if I'm maybe focusing on teaching people certain skills around cloud computing or whatever it might be, it's easier for me to start to click on any of these particular skills or filters and restrict that list down to much more manageable numbers focused on particular areas. So there's a whole bunch of other filters we can include here. So if I know our teams are really only involved, will only really look at courses that are pretty small, you know, or short, so I can start to apply different filters to get that list down to much more manageable numbers. So easy for me to find that content, find and understand what the great courses are. The next thing I may want to then do is actually say, okay, well, I've found some great courses. What I want to then do is I actually want to curate a collection, and I would like to publish that into our main learning system. So at the moment, this whole Content Studio platform is sitting on top of any of your learning platforms that you may have. And I can easily then, if I say, okay, well, I want to create a new collection on artificial intelligence. So easy for me to do that. And I can give it a name. And I can, again, choose various different images if I want to place something on top. And I can start to put all of that information into the system here. So easy for me to start to create those collections, but I can also then start to create and add any of that particular content here as well. So I can start to search through and it starts to present me with a whole bunch of content here. But again, I can start to filter that down. Again, using the search features and here to get that down to a more manageable list. And if I want something that's people are going to read or going to watch, I can pick and choose whatever that may be. So I've identified, let's say I've been into some of these courses, I've identified actually that they're quite good ones and I'd like to add them into my collection here. So I'll just select a few of those. Easy for me to then add those into the selection, into the collection here. They've all been added to that particular collection for me here. So I've selected all those. I want to add all those in. Now I've got my collection, and what I may then want to do is actually say, okay, well, this may need to get reviewed by somebody else before it gets published. So I've got a few things I can do. I can choose who I may want to send this to. So if I chose Chris or anybody else in the organization, I'm just going to send this to me just to make it simple for us to get through to the next stage here. But again, it goes off to me. I can then review it. And if I'm happy with that and I think that's suitable, then I can just publish that out into our system here as well. So really sort of simple and nice ways to find your content, create those different collections that can be posted into your learning systems where your users are. And then we can start to have them taking the learning as they get into the system. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you in this particular section here is the insights area. Now, this is a fairly new thing that we've been working on. So it's, I guess, ultimately it's a reporting engine or reporting tool. And the approach to this is to help the curators to understand the landscape of the content that sits in their organizations and ultimately try to make informed decisions about the content to hopefully drive engagement within your organization and improve and increase the consumption of content. Now, there's a few areas to this. Ultimately, the reports or the insights that you get from the system are split into two. One is much more around organizational insights. So how is your organization performing? And then also industry sort of standard insights that you may have within there. So, what is giving hopefully everybody a deeper understanding of the content in there. So you can see you get an understanding of the number of learners in the system, how much learning is being consumed, what that total consumption looks like, time spent, skills learnt, etc. As an organization, you are able to put your own objectives about learning that you're trying to drive through your organization. So if it's the increase of improvement of presentation skills, emotional intelligence, you can see what percentage of learners are actually taking learning that is related to those particular objectives as well. So there's quite a few nice ways to have that information there, including trends as well. So you can quickly see, what are the top 10 skills? What are people searching for? So if we don't have that content, what can we do about it? We also can quickly see within our organization, how many people are taking learning, how many people are viewing learning, the total time spent in there, the modalities that people are using, and the top skills that people are taking. Now, of those objectives that I talked about a little bit earlier, where people are setting their objectives for an organization, we can get a look at how many people are viewing those and completing any of those particular pieces of content related to those particular objectives. And again, different types of waste that people are consuming it. Now, you also have finally those industry sort of comparisons as well. So I'm able to quickly see how does my organization compare to others in the industry, and how are they getting on with the completion of that particular type of learning. So are we above or below the industry averages, and how is that potentially looking over time as well. So those are some examples. There's a few more in here in terms of how different business units and divisions are comparing, how maybe different regions within your business are comparing. And you can also have information around the content collections that you've actually created in yourselves, and also those of potential partners that you may well be using as well. So I think we'll pause there. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a good idea about how some of that works, and I will stop sharing and hand it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Paul. And I think what we can do is pretty much seamlessly go straight into the Gen AI part of this next as well. So if you're ready to share your screen, Paul, I'll save the audience from another slide. What we'll just tee up is what you've seen from Paul there is very much the 3 pillars of Content Studio, with insights coming just a little later on this year. Gen AI is going to be the biggest addition to this as well. This is what's going to really help drive, as we talked about earlier, these additional kind of efficiencies, further personalization, suggested curation, lots of new functionality. So Paul, if I can hand straight back into you to cover off the Gen AI piece, that would be great, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just going to run this through, because this is stuff that's all coming in this coming year. So, but what it'll do is it'll give you an idea about how AI is able to help people. Now, I showed you a few moments ago how people can curate content, but there's going to be this sort of AI help area that will help people. So if I'm looking to create a collection, and let's say I don't even really know what to give it as a title to make it sort of engaging for people to find it, I can actually ask the AI to help me. So I can just give it a bit of an idea about what it is that I'm trying to actually have this collection be part of. And it can start to generate different types of titles that I could potentially use. And if maybe they're not quite right, so I can either generate more, or I can give it a little bit more context to try and help the system understand a little bit more about actually what's this collection meant to be focused on. So again, I'm presented with a slightly different list, and I find potentially one that is helpful. And I can do exactly the same thing really here with the description of my collection, here. So I can able to put in things, a bit of a description. This is what its high level is about. I want to provide some nice context though for my users, but I can then get the AI to help me with that, because it understands the title of the collection I'm putting together, and it can start to generate, with one click, how that information, what kind of context could be put in there. It can even help me with things like the cover image that sits over the top. So, because it understands what's in the description and what's in the title, it gives me an idea, but I may want something more specific, like post-it notes, for example. So I can ask for something a bit more personal for me. I can say, yeah, that's perfect, great, and I can pop that in there. Now, what it will also allow me to do, the AI, is start to say, okay, well, based upon the description and the title you've given this, what kind of skills are you looking to teach the people with this collection of content you're putting together? So it can use all of that text by parsing the information out of those descriptions, and you can identify a bunch of skills I can add into my actual collection there as well. Now, finally, as you may have noticed when I was going through the discovery page, some of these subscriptions have potentially quite a lot of courses. So asking the AI to actually find me the top 10 best courses to put into my collection is a great way to help me find some of the great content that's potentially in my subscription packages. And I can add that with one click, publish it straight away into any of the learning solutions that I may well be using. So in this particular example, this has gone into one of our Edcast platforms, and from a user perspective, it comes through as any other piece of content that may be generated and used in that particular system there. Now, what we're also able to do with Gen AI is actually help. Now, in this case, it's going to be from a user perspective, so an individual taking a piece of learning. But what you can see in the top right-hand corner here is it says, let the AI help you again. So this is where you can embed actual AI into the content itself. Now, at the beginning, this is really just going to be focused on cornerstone content. So as the course starts to play, I might then think, oh, actually, do you know what? I'd like a summary of what's actually this course is all about. So I can ask the AI to say, actually, high level, what is this about? What am I going to get out of this if I start and take this whole course, which, who knows how long it may be. This one's relatively short, but if it's a longer course, it might be really useful. I can also ask for quizzes as well. So if there are skills checks I want to do on myself, I can say, okay, well, ask me a bunch of questions and I can pop the answers in here, and it can start to automatically generate those questions using the AI and give me answers, give me sort of little mini skills tests at that particular point in time. So it's really quite a nice way to help me as an individual find ways to help myself develop. Now, I've just shown you this from the user perspective, but ultimately the same kinds of features are going to be available for administrators. So helping people create quizzes and tests for other individuals and themselves, and being able to push those out. So as Chris said, these are all the kind of things that are coming over the course of this year within the system. And they're designed, as Chris has already said, to be really, useful, but secure, and, not going to affect anyone's user data as well. So we're being really sort of circumspect about this and making sure that we're going to give people really good experiences using AI here. So I'll stop. I know there's a few minutes left, so I'm going to stop sharing here and see if there are any questions we want to go to.
I think Chris has been furiously answering a load of questions as you've been demoing there, Paul. So thank you to Chris for that. Another couple of questions that have come through. One of them is saying, can this be turned off? I'm guessing if that's the AI side of things in Content Studio.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good question. So yes, ultimately, when the Gen AI functionality goes live in Studio, customers will have the ability to turn on or off that Gen AI functionality. It's something we have been asked about from some customers already, because we recognize that there could be considerations of how this sort of technology is used in their infrastructure. So for that reason, exactly, customers will be able to manage that, yes.
Okay, I don't know if it's worth going over any of the questions you've already asked in there, Chris, with our last sort of 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly that. So a couple that we asked that we've answered, if I scroll up there as well. So Content Studio is pretty much from the discovery side of things, that first kind of pillar is pretty much available in all of our platforms now, apart from SumTotal that's coming very, very soon. And it's a gradual rollout then across the Curate and then the Insights piece later on this year. Do feel free. I've got my details on a couple of slides at the end with some resources that you can tap into as well. Feel free to reach out. I can happily then share with you, what you should have access to, when that's coming, all of that kind of timeline there as well. But other things we've answered are just around that, yes, how you publish that content. Again, we've got a guide that we can share with everybody on today's session as well. So if I just jump in and we can share that with everybody that's on the session. So we have got some follow-up bits that we will make available. So one of the kind of things that we will call out is, if you have got access to Studio based on your learning platform or Edcast, let's help you get that enabled. Let's do that as the first piece. We do have a Content Studio starter guide and FAQ that I think will be really useful. So we'll make that available to everyone. We've got a couple of ebooks that you can scan and get access to, which I'll share on the next couple of slides with QR codes as well. And we will obviously share the deck. Today has been the first of 4 webinars that we'll be running this year, specifically in and around the content and associated areas there as well. So do stay tuned. We hope you can join you for some more of those. And ultimately as well, do feel free to reach out. You know, I am part of a global team. There are multiple versions of me dotted across EMEA, so you will have an assigned content and learning consultant as well. But feel free to use my contact details. You can send any questions, queries through to me. So that's cgiddings@csod.com. As I say, we've got a couple of resources that you can tap into. So we have our AI ebook. There's a QR code there, but we'll send the deck so you can get that downloaded. And then we also have a new one, which is really exciting to have a look at. That's Redesigning Work for a New World 2024 HR Prediction. So that's pretty new, and that does include areas around content and the AI areas that we've talked about today. But all we can really say is, you know, we're at time. I think we are bang on time. So thank you everyone very much for joining us today. Do reach out with any questions, queries. I'll happily take you through anything that we've covered today. And we hope to speak to you all soon and see you on another webinar very soon. Yvonne, Paul, anything further that you guys would like to add before we wrap up? Well, bang on time, I think.
Bang on time, exactly. Just thank you to everybody. Thank you to yourself, Chris and Paul, for the demo. And we will send the recording around in the next week.
Super. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.